Welcome to Iron Insights, where faith and leadership forge together. Amanda Pearch sitting down with Christian business leaders to explore how they build strong organizations, lead high-performing teams, contribute to their community, and create a culture rooted in kingdom values. Join us for honest conversations and actionable insights as we strengthen our calling and lead with purpose. This is Iron Insights. Let's get started. And welcome back, folks. Amanda Pearch here, broadcasting with you from Gainesville, Georgia, joined by Adam Hicks and Christina Snyder. They are with the Lanier Law Group. Adam Hicks is the owner and counselor at law, and Christina serves as the director of operations. You have a rich presence here in the Gainesville area. We are all connected through a peer group. We'll give shout out to Iron Forums. For those who are unfamiliar with the Lanier Law Group, Adam, give us a little bit of background, how you guys serve the community, how you built your team.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I graduated law school 30 years ago this spring, and I've done a couple different things in my career. But in 2015, I stopped working for other people and started having my own law firm. I was a true solo. Like, I was the chief cook, bottle washer, file clerk, typist, etc. For a couple of years. And then in 2017, activity was picking up, so I had some help. In the fall of 2017, I began a dedicated effort to develop a specific estate planning practice. We got very intentional about learning various aspects of estate planning, primarily in the revocable living trust arena. Spent several months on a deep dive learning about trusts and how they can be useful in people's estate planning journey. And so very much started dedicating our practice towards educating folks on all aspects of estate planning. And then largely people, many of our clients do decide to implement revocable living trusts. More intentionality developing our team in specific ways in terms of business processes and how we handle clients, as just opposed to answering the phone and doing the best we could for a couple of years, like a lot of startups. Christina came about a year later, and we started focusing on developing our processes. And while she started as an entry-level person, certainly now that she's our director of operations, we have been able to take our education-focused practice and make sure that outstanding customer service and very efficient operations is part of that, and she's a valuable part of our team. And so it's been really great, and we're working hard on our culture, following our culture, our value statements, and then making sure clients sense that as they work with us through the estate planning education process.
Core values are very important, not only personally, but as you kind of establish your team. And I know that's something that you've been working really hard on, Christina. I'd love to come back to that as well as the education piece. But would you be so kind as to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you came to Lanier Law Group?
Sure. My background, I started working when I was 15, and my first job was actually a sales position job, and I continued to work through high school. And then once I graduated high school, before I entered into college, I just needed to take a little bit of a life break. I had a lot of education from my family life experience in high school. So during that break, I left and went into the restaurant industry and ended up bartending from pretty young age. It's restaurant bars. You're allowed to bartend starting at 18. So that worked out well for me. I got to do a lot of networking in those positions before I thought I was ready to enter to the real workforce, the professional services. And so when I was 19, I did marketing for a medical funding company. My dad is a personal injury attorney. And so it's kind of a parallel industry is the medical funding. So I got to do a lot of boots on the ground work experience doing marketing at 19. So I was ready to go back to college. And so I was bartending at night, going to college, and then I started work as an office administrator for a Gwinnett Assistant Attorney General. And he did DFACS work. My major was in psychology. I didn't know if I wanted to be a counselor. I knew I had a heart for people and that counseling is deeply important to me, and I hope to other people as well. Just a transformative experience. But my experience told me that I did not want to do that with my life. Defects is a very hard industry to work in. Obviously, working full-time, going to school full-time, working at night is hard on anyone, even if you are young and have so much energy. After a while, especially after COVID, I was pretty tired of serving drinks in a mask, get home late, and then do homework late. So I actually told my dad, who, like I said, was an attorney, and he was actually a prosecutor with Adam about 20 years ago. They had just a momentary connection in their life. But I called my dad that morning and said, I'm really ready to just work one job while I'm finishing up school. Put your ear to the ground and ask God. I'm like, let's pray about it. And he actually had lunch with Adam scheduled for that day.
Wow.
So it was truly a God thing. And so Adam had lunch with my dad. They hadn't seen each other in like 20 years. And Adam was talking and said, I'm really looking for someone. Office administration, which was what I was doing before. And then once I got brought on board, it was definitely not just that, but it was a big surprise in a great way.
Room for growth.
Absolutely.
So a God wink.
It certainly was.
Adam, tell us about your law school days.
Well, I was the old man of my law school class because I had already my undergrad was at the Naval Academy. Graduated from the Naval Academy, did 6 years on active duty, got off of active duty and started law school. So I started law school. I was 27, married, and I had a 4-month-old, which made me one of the old men of the class. Which I look back on that now, that's pretty laughable. So my law school days were a little different than some of my classmates who were having lots of fun. I'd get done and go home and change diapers and study and change diapers and, do the things you do as a young married. Graduated law school when I was 30 and came back here to Hall County. Originally from Hall County, went to Johnson High School at the south end of the county and was gone 13 years in the Navy, 10 in the Navy and 3 at law school. And been back here since 1995.
Wow, right before the Olympics?
Yes.
96?
I was actually, Philip, her dad, and I were both prosecutors when the Olympics were up here, and I actually have a set of Olympic credentials.
Oh.
Because they needed some prosecutors to be able to get into the venue.
Well, it's apparent that you have an eye for talent, and investing in the next generation is something that you have done successfully. So talk about succession and talk about the importance of putting the right people in place and also the education piece as it relates to your firm and the future generations.
Sure. Very lucky finding Christina and in terms of it being a God thing, our practice was at a point where Christina was leaving many times during the day to go to class. Unfortunately, our practice was in such a way, and the efficiency that she had developed is she could be gone during the day at class and finish her classes. And huge age range for my kids. My kids range from 33 down to 20. So I like the promise of eager young adults. We have Christina's the second oldest person on the team here because there's 2 more on the team younger than her. So we enjoy developing young people that have an interest in growing personally and trying to realize, the plans that the Lord has for them.
A steward of talents. You mentioned something I'd like to circle back around to your area of expertise, and it's something that I was unfamiliar with, and you were talking about revocable living trust.
Correct.
So being that estate planning is your major sector,
Right.
That is a term that's new to me. Could you please elaborate?
Sure. So, again, as part of our piece on education, many people don't know that there's multiple ways for assets to transfer. So you've probably heard all your life, 2 things are certain.
Taxes and death.
Death and taxes. So this is something I tell a lot of our clients. So on a scale of 0 to 10, we're going to agree death is a 10 out of 10, right? Taxes aren't really. They're a high 9, but they're not 10 out of 10. Congress can do away with taxes. Death is always going to happen. So for the believer, there's actually 3 things that are certain. You will pass away, and you know where you're going. Those 2 things are easy for the believer, right?
And that Jesus is coming again.
Okay, so there's
That's the third.
4 things. I'm going to add that one in. But the other one that relates to estate plan is 100% of everything you own will be owned by someone else. 100% of everything you own will be owned by someone else. And so how that ownership is going to transition is really important, that a lot of people don't know there's multiple ways for that to happen. So I call that the plan of disposition. So most people think, hey, I have these assets, I need to leave a will that describes, hey, I've got 5 kids, everybody gets 1/5. You put that in your will and you're done. Everybody thinks, okay, I'm done. I've gone to the lawyer and I've said, this is who I want to be my executor. I want my oldest kid to be my executor, and he divides everything in fifths, right? And so that's a very common experience in estate planning. Well, a will is just one of the ways for a plan of disposition. So real estate, a couple different ways you can have that property pass, right? You can put someone else on the title with you, and then it would go to them. You can write a will that says, hey, if I die owning something, this is where I want it to go. That's a plan of disposition. That requires court process, requires all your heirs to be notified, requires somebody go to the judge and raise their right hand and swear to do certain things. But you can also have a revocable living trust. So if you establish a revocable living trust, which is your own private contract that never gets filed with the court, doesn't require court approval, right? So your revocable living trust would contain your plan of disposition. You create a revocable living trust, you transfer your condo to the trust. Now, while you're alive and competent, you're fully in charge of the trust, so you lose no control over the asset. And you're allowed to do that with a loan. It doesn't affect your loan. But now when you pass away, you've put your plan of disposition in a revocable living trust, and you can say, I want the condo to go to my nephew, okay, but now he doesn't have to go to the probate court. You put in your contract who you want to be in charge of making all that happen. And so a big piece of our education is explaining to people how the different plans of disposition, where they can rest. It might be, if you're the only person on your bank accounts, you can say, if I pass away, write a check to Christina or Adam. That's ADAM. That's a plan of disposition. So what we focus on here is educating people that it's about your plan of disposition. Because, and I tell folks that I'm going to say this with obnoxious frequency. 100% of everything you own is going to be owned by somebody else. And I say that 10, 15 times in a client meeting because I really want folks to leave knowing 100% of everything you own is going to one day be owned by somebody else. And so you need to know who you want to own it next and how you want them to get it. And that's what a lot of people don't know, that there's a varied way to make all those things happen. We expose folks to that knowledge so they can make a decision in their own mind. So a lot of people don't know Georgia has written a will for every citizen in the state. So if you don't have a will, or you don't think you have a will, you actually do. The state wrote one for you.
Wow.
Right? So if you're young married with no children, the state's will says that 100% of everything you own will go to your spouse. That is, by the way, if it isn't handled like your nephew, right? So if you were married, if you were the young newly married and you had your life insurance benefit still being paid to your nephew, even though your will left everything to your new husband, the nephew still gets the life insurance proceeds because the will doesn't control that. The plan of disposition for the life insurance was the beneficiary designation. The will, whether you wrote the will or the state wrote the will, only controls those things that aren't disposed of some other way. So we teach people to get intentional about, hey, each and everything that you own, how's that particular thing going to be disposed of, and is that what you want? And if it's not, here's how you change it.
As we do it.
Right?
Christina, I know culture is something that is very important to you guys here at Lanier Law, and that's something that you have been working very hard on during your time here. You care genuinely, you succeed together, you serve with integrity, you nurture relationships, and also you cultivate excellence. So talk about your culture and talk about how you serve emphatically and how faith and leadership intersect here at the firm.
I'd say we've had our culture under a microscope. I'd say that Adam has empowered me and and really brought me alongside him to be a part of that development. And he's put me in place of some mentorships and given me some opportunities where I can reach out to other women who have been in business for a long time and who it is their area of expertise, developing culture within a law firm or within just a business in general. Obviously, Adam and I are both faith-based business leaders, and our core values, I feel like, do reflect that. There's a lot of things that we do differently than other firms. But the main thing, especially when I'm hiring and I'm talking to people about, well, tell me about the culture of your firm. What is it like? What is the culture of the employees? I get to talk to them a lot about how Adam hired me and how he's treated me. And one of the main things that I will always remember is how he said, if you get in the parking lot one day and you don't want to be here, the first stop is to my office. And just the caring genuinely started with him. It's just been a trickle-down effect. To me, the most important thing has been the development of these 5 core tenets of what we want and what we want the client experience to be. Going back to what I said, like what we do differently, we truly believe that estate planning is a community service, that we understand it's very difficult. It's not fun to talk about. We try our best to make it enjoyable as we can, or make it as painless as possible, if we're being honest. But people need just to be aware that it does leave a huge mess. And when your family, when you leave your family behind, I personally want my family to grieve me. I want them to be left alone and have the ability to just be in their emotions and not to be burdened with the mess that I've created with success. I mean, when you're successful, you gather, real estate, or you have the opportunity. God's blessed me with the opportunity of having bank accounts, and it is important to understand how that's handled if I'm not here. And not only if I'm not here in the sense that I've died, but also my husband needs to know what happens if I'm incapacitated, if I get in a car accident. How does he, take care of me? If we're both in a car accident, how do my sister or my dad, how do they take care of us? Our clients, I think they feel the emotion of why we think this is important. And that's where the education piece comes in. They need to know where we're coming from and why we want to be in contact with them and have this flat fee. We don't want there to be this barrier. It is not just a selling point. So the culture, I think it does reflect through the staff to the client.
The clients, yeah.
And that for me, like when I'm choosing, we're going through a hiring process right now, and I'm really excited about that. But my main thing, what I'm looking for is character, because it's not my job to cultivate your character. I can be, hand in hand, help you with that. But it is these tenets that I can't develop your work ethic. I can't develop, you either come cut of a certain cloth or you're not. And I can give you extra education. I can do skill development all day long with the person who's ready to do that. But the caring, genuinely nurturing relationship, serving with integrity, being honest and meaning something when you say it and following up with it, the cultivating excellence, the people who want to be better every single day and succeeding together, that's really who we're looking for, not just hiring staff. But that, honestly, I think kind of equates to the type of person who wants to work with us as well.
Okay, Adam. So you've been in Gainesville pretty much your whole life. I don't know what the term is, being a native from Gainesville. In Gwinnett, it's a Gwinnetian. In Forsyth, it's a Forsythian. What is it here?
Hall Countyan.
Hall County? Yeah. Okay, he bucked out his teeth when he said that, y'all. So, truthfully, I could stand outside in the Regions parking lot, just kidding, Bank of America, and throw a stone and hit any other law firm. I know they're not all in your sector.
Right.
Let's talk about the landscape of law, specifically your firm here in Gainesville, Georgia.
Well, I certainly get questions from clients often about where we sit in the market. And where we think we sit in the market is in a place where no one else is. Because all we do is estate planning and probate. We don't have, I'm the only attorney right now. We don't have lots of lawyers, some that do family law, some that do bankruptcy, some that do trial work. We don't do any of that. I do uncontested probate, and we do estate planning. And because we do just those two things, my attention is not drawn to doing, we don't deal with other lawyers. By and large, our representation of a client does not require any other attorneys. There's no conflict, right? I'm not trying to call another lawyer and try to make a deal, try to get something settled. We're not doing that. And this is just us being able to educate and serve clients. Christina mentioned we do everything on a flat fee basis. We don't do anything that causes a client to write us a check until we have it in writing, what we're going to do and what it's going to cost them. And then it doesn't matter how many texts, emails, calls.
So for those listening that don't know what a flat fee is, that absolves the retainer, and you're working for X amount for the term of...
So just to clarify a little bit more on that, a retainer is usually used in the context of an hourly matter where I'm going to bill a certain amount per hour, but I'm going to ask for an amount up front that I can bill against. That's a retainer. What we say is, you write us a check, you've paid for your estate plan, I don't care how many times you call us. If I spend 10 hours on something or 20 hours, it's the same price. The price does not go up based on how many hours it takes us.
The flat fee model. No surprises. Love that. Your passion for service is apparent, Adam. Thank you for your service in the Navy, and then also how you continue to serve. I'm curious, with this field of law, was there a personal reason that you chose to go into this?
Just in my early job, I worked in estate planning. And you know, we all know, just anecdotally, you don't even have to work in a law firm to have somebody in your life that has a very bad probate story. Grandma died, and I'm in a blended family now. I was raised in a blended family. We hear lots of stories where there's a death in a blended family and it wreaks all kinds of havoc. And so we certainly make the world know that we focus on being able to minister to blended families in the estate planning arena, because it is particularly difficult. So that's why my card says counselor at law and not attorney at law, because we have to talk people through about, that's a real world situation that, you know, harken back to the things that are certain is going to happen.
Adam, I've enjoyed our conversation tremendously. And Christina, I know you and I are going to continue our conversation, but I'd love for you to leave our listeners with something positive.
One of my affirmations is that I have built a company where people feel fulfilled to come to work.
And if you get to the parking lot and you want to leave, make sure you see Adam first.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Adam Hicks, who is the counselor at law here at the Lanier Law Group. If you guys would like to learn more about them, visit them at Lanier Law GA. And you can find Adam here in the center of Gainesville,
There we
Georgia.
go.
All right, Adam, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Visit AmandaPearch.com to learn more about purpose-driven podcasting.